I'm with my good friend Katie, and we are now friends.
Totally.
We know, well, you know a lot more about me than I know about you, but I'm happy to be like sort of your guinea pig.
Thank you, Moonchild.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
We've talked about all kinds of really cool stuff, and another tool that you have in your arsenal, which is pretty full golf bag. I don't know why I'm saying golf. Is palm reading. So palm reading is really interesting to me. I think that there's got to be some truth in the hands. You know, like that's interesting. If when we talked about astrology, there's truth in the stars. I mean, no one's hand's the same. Is that true?
Nope. And it's your hand changes every 10 years.
And your hand changes every 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So is that like on the button? Like
just around the time. I've definitely read for people over the span of a lot, have friends for a very long time and looked at their hands. I've definitely seen a lot of changes. And there's been times where I'm like, this almost doesn't look like the same hand. They've been through a lot in that time.
Wow. Very cool. Yeah, I think mine's changed for sure. I've looked at it. I had a friend who read palms maybe I'd say like 7 or 8 years ago. And she said too also that your hand does change, which is kind of trippy.
It does.
And
both
weird.
from like the way that you use it and just over time. And I think some of that is metaphysical with like the things that you go through as a soul.
Sure.
But like generally the practices or the way that I understand it is like the hand that you write with is like the hand that you're dealt, and like the hand that the other hand is, the hand that you don't write with or your dominant hand is the one that that's like what the fates have given you. And that your dominant hand is what you do with that. So I look at both hands to see like what kind of hand the person was dealt, no puns intended, and also to look at what they have created out of that reality and like kind of how they've used what they've been given. A lot of times you'll see differences in things like the fate line or things like, the Mercury line because a person has acted, with full intention against maybe what might have been their destiny. They've gone against the grain in some ways, and that will show up on their hand. I find that to be true.
That's really interesting because, when I was saying, like, in astrology, like, what if I go against the thing? Like, what is the capacity for free will? And then it shows up in your hand if you do. Like, it literally, like, physically manifests in your hand.
Yeah. Like, I saw a girl who had, she had very strong, like, fate lines, and her life was supposed to be very regimented and very laid out for her. Her family had a plan for her. There was a company, like a sort of a succession that was intended to take place. She decided she wanted to be a sailor and travel all around the world on a really small boat. And her hand had all kinds of Mercury in it, had all kinds of travel. Her Luna mount was very developed. And then the lines that show about independence were very developed as well. So it showed that she had totally changed her fate and, rejected what was offered to her and decided to carve her own way. And she almost carved her own lines in her hand.
Wow. That's really cool. Wow. That's amazing. So when we are looking for these different tools, palm reading, definitely one of them.
Yes.
Another service that you offer.
Yeah, thank you.
I will once again volunteer to be a guinea pig.
Thank you.
No, thank you. I feel like I'm getting all the best out of
well,
this.
I feel bad because it's sort of like you feel very exposed when somebody's reading you like this.
That's all right.
But I won't do anything bad with the information.
No,
I
I
promise.
appreciate that. No, and hopefully nobody out there will.
Yeah.
I don't think they would. But I'm happy to like throw myself into the fire.
Yeah.
Because, well, I mean, one, for fun, and then two, I mean, you've been incredibly accurate so far.
Thank you.
Like that's really.
Thank you. That means a lot to me.
Like it's surreal.
I'm always trying to check myself at all times because it's like, hey, if the minute I start getting too cocky, is like when I need to change. So Thank you. It really helps me to make sure I'm aligned with my purpose and helping people instead of just telling them maybe flowery things or exciting things. I want to tell you the real.
That's cool. I want to hear the real.
Thank
I don't
you.
have time.
No, No.
For the
we want to
fake.
know who we are.
Yeah, exactly.
And the great thing about palm reading is, like, you can be on a first date with somebody. You can just casually grab their hand and you can assess what their real deal is. I do that every single time I go out with a guy.
Interesting. Okay. Well, can you tell us maybe just like a few basic things
Sure.
to kind of look out for?
Yeah. Okay. So, like, one thing they look at that with I can tell without even grabbing your hand is we look at what the shape of the hand is. We look at how the proportion is of the fingers to the palm. We look at the shape of the nail, and then we try to make those determinations. So I see that your palm is sort of a square shape, and that is what's called an earth hand. And an earth hand person is very practical. So even if they're like all pie in the sky about everything in their life, that deep down in there somewhere as a person that knows that things need to get taken care of, and they know that there's like a right way to do things, and that there is hard work behind a lot of the things that they want, and they're willing to put that in. They're very practical and pragmatic people overall. So even the most flowery Aquarius or person that seems all about abstract and concepts, if they have a square hand like how you have, that person's actually willing to go in and put in some work on some things, and that person being practical and earthy in some ways that's going to color their personality, and that their bills are probably paid. If they're not, if a person with square hands bills are not paid, it means that they're kind of going off the chart for what they are comfortable with, and they're probably a little bit uncomfortable. Because people with a square hand, which I also have, I have kind of a square hand. It's a little bit elongated, but it's mostly square. We need to feel stability in order to be comfortable, and we need to, kind of fix things when something is wrong. We're willing to put in the work and dig in. So that's the first thing I noticed. And also you have nails that look kind of spatulate. If they sort of look like a fan, if they spread out a little bit like this, that talks about like kind of whether the person has artistic bends and whether they're a little bit. So you have a little bit of qualities that are mutable. And so that means like your nails tell me that even though you're a little bit set in your ways, your square hand can be kind of a stubborn thing. There's a lot of suggestibility about you, like you're willing to listen to people, and if they have an idea that you feel like is better, if they're able to convince you of it, you're willing to take on that, and you're willing to like admit that you changed your mind. You're okay with changing your mind. And you also have a lot of artistic ability or artistic sensibilities about you, because that spatula kind of fan hand is an artistic. It's like it colors the hand. It's a practical person, but they have like some artsy and a little bit of they like a little bit of fanciful and a little bit of extra. So that tells me that there's a good balance there. Yeah, you like a little flourish. Why not a little razzle dazzle?
No, that's great.
You need it.
That's incredibly accurate. I love that. I would.
Yeah.
I would say to everybody, like, it's good to be a little bit pragmatic. That's helpful.
Pay the bills.
Yeah, take
Energy
care.
doesn't just pay for itself, and you need the lights on.
No, you got to have the lights on. It's really important. But yeah, I do like things that are a little bit extra. That's true. I can't help that.
Yeah, so like if you're picking out, let's say, a banister, your first look would be like all about the function and whether it was a good price and whether it was a good deal. But then after you've made sure that the foundation is laid, you want you're gonna choose like kind of the fancier one. So I can almost predict what you might pick out at Home Depot based on your hand.
That's kind of cool. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, and when we flip over the hand, we can see the lines.
Okay.
That's what most palmists are kind of talking about.
That's where the stuff is. Tell me again, like, about the fingernails.
Sure. So the way that your fingernails are shaped, I don't know if everybody can see it, but they kind of fan out like this. Like there's a base where the base is slightly narrower than the nail at the end, and so that's called spatula. And that shape is like it sort of signifies being open to ideas, open to interpretation, and open to inspiration. So you can kind of think of it like a seashell or anything else that's sort of artistic to help you remember that.
Okay, that's cool. So so that reminded me. So like the idea of like a meritocracy. So what a meritocracy is when the best idea prevails. And so, like, that's something that's very near and dear to my heart since I learned about it. I don't know, maybe my nails changed, and before they were, like, skinny or something.
Could be. And nutritionists do that, too.
But now, I've learned what a meritocracy is, and I am totally 100% open, to whatever is going to be the best. Like, what is the best solution to this problem?
Yeah.
I don't care if it's my idea, your idea, whoever's idea. It doesn't matter. Like, let's fix the problem with the best idea.
Absolutely.
So I don't know, for some reason I wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah.
We can absolutely get into.
Well, the meritocracy appeals to you also because like there's a practical part of you that's like, that wants the hard work to be done too. So you really want people to earn what they have because like you'll be able to respect them a lot more.
Sure.
The practical hand looks at like, oh, maybe that person, maybe that son-in-law of the boss is, getting the job, but are they going to do a good job? And if they were able to come in and do the job in a good way, you could respect them and you could be open to that and not like see, not just go, oh, nepotism, but you'd want to see them do a good job. They'd have to show you. It's kind of like the Missouri show me state type of hand.
Okay, cool. Right on.
Yeah.
I can deal with that.
People look at like the knobs on your knuckles too. Like there's a lot of people who do sort of like kind of only study that, or like the lengths and proportions, like the lengths of fingers and proportions, like which one of these fingers is longer. For me, I'm more interested in like the mounts on what the person's hands have to tell me, and also what their lines, because the kind of what we think of in palmistry is, or chiromancy is like the lines.
Okay.
So if you show me, let's see here. Which hand do you write with?
I write with this hand. I'm right-handed.
Okay. So this says, so this is your heart line, this is your headline, this is your lifeline. And this tells me if you have a break in your lifeline towards the end and then a continuance, this means that you're going to drastically change your life, like probably in your 60s. But you're, like there's going to be a period of sort of contemplation around then. Maybe something will happen, but like it's some sort of event or lifestyle change, either forced or not, that's going to change the way you live so that you can continue to live a long life. But you have a really long lifeline that goes all the way down there. Ugh. So it shows I know. Existence is exhausting. But it says you're going to really change your ways. And because you're going to, by that time, I foresee that you're going to be so in love with life that you're not going to want the ride to end.
It's kind of funny. I see I don't know. I see old men. Like my uncle is one that brings in my mind.
Yeah.
And they're so interesting to me.
Yeah,
like,
they have the stories.
Yeah, and
you're a storyteller.
And incredible stories, and also incredible experiences.
Yeah.
And I guess that goes along with the stories, but you have to be able to tell it. But
sure.
The experiences that man has is, it's fascinating. I sat there at my sister's wedding and just listened to him talk for like forever, and then all of a sudden there was a caterpillar on my neck that was biting me.
Oh my God!
And then I flicked it off, and then I had this giant like rash.
I never heard of a hostile caterpillar like that. That's crazy.
Yeah, what they do is they just like
like you're a leaf.
Inject their poison.
You must have just looked really leafy that day.
I guess so. Yeah, it was like it was a great day. But that's interesting to think.
So you got so distracted by his stories that you didn't notice the caterpillar was making you his lunch.
Yeah, I had no idea. I was just like listening to this old man speak.
Well, that's the power of like the storytellers, that they can make us forget where we are.
It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I kind of hate it, but I get it. And I think as far as like self-actualization and stuff, that doesn't happen for most people until later in life. 40s, 50s. And so, I watched even a documentary of this guy who went to Alaska and built a cabin up there. He was just going to build a cabin and live in the woods of Alaska for 1 year.
Wow.
He wound up living there until he was in his 80s.
Wow.
And then his family basically had to go up there and just be like, all right, it's time for you
to
come back home, right?
Yeah.
So I get it. I think that I've seen a lot of people, for whatever reason, in my life, older men, really change toward the end of their life and really open up and really accept the world around them for what it is. So that's I don't want to I know I cringed when you were like, you're gonna live a long time.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I would make it to 30. So
I hear that. The younger we are, the more it sounds absurd and preposterous to get that old, but the closer we get to that time, the more we might want that. And I see that you definitely have a choice, almost more obviously than most people, is because you have relatives who have died young because of lifestyle choices. You have relatives who have had and enjoyed more longevity on purpose. And you're going to choose to enjoy that longevity too, and you're going to make the changes you need to make. You're going to see that. You might have an event that spurs you to that, or you might have something that you see. Either way, it's a place that's very powerful and impacts you mentally to the fact where you make that change immediately, and then you take the fork over to longer life because you want to chill out on this rock a little bit longer. I definitely see you choosing that.
Okay, well, cool. I didn't mean to.
Oh no! But that's what the lifeline tells us is you want to know not only what kind of longevity somebody has, but also what will happen to them, and so I can predict with reasonable accuracy that from around your 50s to your 60s, just based on where this is in the lifeline, about when that will happen, And the fact that this line here, so your lifeline is very heavily joined to your headline, this means a later separation from the family. And this, the way that these if you look at it, kind of looks like somebody sewed in really hard here. this is like some intense moments and have, that when you did finally leave the family home, it was a little bit intense and maybe not everyone had good feelings about it. But your fate line also comes in here, and it was very faint here. So there's almost nothing for a while, and then something, and then blank again, and then it keeps going. We want to know like what our fate is, right? But a lot of times it's totally up to us, because there's times in our life when there's nothing really controlling us or our path, and there's nothing like that. We're not on the track of destiny. We're like, and like, so the times where the fate line in your hand is blank, that means there's times when it was totally up to you. And then the times when you see the line come in, that's when the things, might have been a little bit harder. You kind of can avoid something.
Sure.
Like something might happen where, you have to move in with your parents to take care of your mom who's sick or something. Like you are kind of forced to take a path.
Sure.
So you see that will come in. But then I see like that the rest of your career is almost all the way up to you. And like there's sort of like a line here on this mount. But so it's telling you where it thinks you want to go. So you probably intend to work a long time. But that's totally up to you. But I do see people with a fate line where it's just completely like there. So they've been on a track and been on a thing, and they intend to work until, X age or whatever when they retire. And like, they have it all planned out and they are going to actually stay on that track. You can kind of tell. But when you see disruptions in the fate line or blank spaces, that means the person was on their own or they had gone off the track of their, they purposely went away from their fate. Like somebody who leaves home early instead of go to college or whatever, like they might just choose something totally different, Right. But sometimes it's for their best good. You have to just trust yourself. All right, so this headline here, it's really long and straight. And the fact that the longer this line is shows you, like, not only how interested somebody is in, like, acquiring knowledge, but, like, it shows you kind of, like, what path they end up taking. And this being so long and so strong like this means that you're a person who never really wants to stop learning. You never feel like your learning is done. And that you're going to want to go to other countries and experience other countries, because this is going all the way to the Mount of Luna, and it doesn't fork at all. So it means that you don't, you're not here to be a lawyer. You're not here to, you might like writing, but you'd rather more like experience things and sort of, like you need them to like change you and like sort of cover you completely. And you're not just doing it to tell other people about it, but you're also doing it to do some personal alchemy. So that's telling me that you're going to go to a lot of different foreign lands. And you haven't gone to that many so far, maybe like 4 or 5. But you'll see this Mount of Luna here start to fill out the more and more you travel. Right? And this is the Mount of Venus. This tells us how much of an influence the women have in your life. And I see here it's very firm and like there's a lot of meat there. You have a lot of very influential women in your life. And you also have like, a lot of people, women's opinions that are still sort of like governing you in a way. Like, because, they are both influential and like you trust their opinion, but there's people like that have a lot of opinions about your life and that you do kind of have to take to heart in a way, because it's just sort of there. All right, and then the love line, everybody wants to know. The love line being steady like this without a lot of branching means that when you love hard and you love like in a stable way, which is surprising with your Gemini moon and everything, that you don't kind of flit from partner to partner. You're a lot more stable than I would expect for a person with a Gemini moon. You have a few lines here which should signify regrets in a relationship or maybe taking somebody back. These 3 being too close together like this would tell me that this is maybe one relationship where there was like yes, no for a while, and it was a little bit painful. But this forking ending here under your middle finger, this shows me that ultimately when you're happy in a relationship, you almost take on sort of like a serving role and a protector role. And this forking here means that like there's part of you, like you can sort of be a switch in a way, but ultimately you kind of love to dote on them and you like to give them a lot of attention. All right. And then a lot of things people ask me is like, how many kids will I have, or how many times will I be married, or whatever. Like this here is where a lot of people look for lines of like progeny. And this tells me you could have like 3 or 4 children if you wanted to. And this, be careful with this though, because like a lot of times this will just mean like total pregnancies. And if I talk to a lot of people who've miscarried or had other experiences where a pregnancy ended, and they're very sensitive about it. So be careful when you're talking about that. Even though you count those lines, that line, like those are all significant to that person, and it's all about potential. This doesn't mean that's what you did. It just means that's what could have happened in like the total allotment that was available. And other factors being what they are, I can't guarantee that person just said no to all of it. It could have been not their choice, but that's something that's very sensitive. So, but good and accurate. People like to hear that though.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right. Let me see your other hand.
Okay.
Let's see what the hand what Destiny dealt you with. All right. So these are a lot thinner lines. This means that you've developed your passion over your life. And this means that this fate line here being a lot stronger than on the other hand means that there was sort of like a path that your family had meant for you. But I see here that you did not take that. You chose not to. You said, no, thank you. You know, and then there was some bitterness there a little bit. But you also, like, I think your first impulse in relationships was to be more like, when you were younger, perhaps you were like maybe more controlling, not in a bad way, but just like more domineering.
That's true.
And like then you found out that didn't really work for you. And there was a lot of painful experiences that you had that were causing you to be that way, and it wasn't your true self.
That's very accurate.
Thank you. And I see here that like the way that you like showed up here, like the influence of women was sort of lacking. Like you weren't expecting from past lives or whatever, you weren't expecting to have a lot of female input, and the female input in your lives has been a lot more than you anticipated or had what you thought was room for it, but it's there. And I see here, this one says like that you're only really planning on having one child, if any, but like that one child might not be a person necessarily. Like if you don't already have any kids, it could be like something that you create or give birth to, but it says like that you're more focused on like one thing at a time, like you were saying, and also like that you want to like leave a legacy in the world, but you're really focused on having that be a bigger mark rather than having it be multiple things. Let's see, what else does this hand have to say? Okay, so this, like, if you see like people's places that are sort of hollow looking on certain mounts, all these mounts have a name with a planet. You know, so there's like Apollo, Saturn, Jupiter, and this being here means that like you didn't come into this life feeling like you had a whole lot of like spiritual bent, and you also didn't feel like you had a whole lot of like luck, or I think you came to this world feeling unlucky. But this hand, the mount, if you look at them compared to each other, this one's a lot more fleshed out. You've gotten a lot more confident. And like you've kind of filled in some holes that you had, like the hole here for like sort of religion or faith, like the place in our life for those things. You've filled that in a little bit more from where a place that was sort of lacking, because you didn't get a lot of that as a base, but you've kind of filled that in for yourself. So this hand is a lot meatier than the other one, and it's got a lot of raised points, which is like extreme passion. So you see, this is a very passionate person when you see a very meaty hand like this. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's what your hands tell me.
Wow. That's really, really
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Well, it really helps me on dates, because a lot of times I'm just like, let's get an appetizer and go home. Because I saw their hand.
Right. You're like, it's not your
it's
coffee.
It's not for me, you know.
It's not your coffee breath, bro.
Yeah.
It's your palm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not the fact that you ate all the appetizer sampler.
Yeah.
It's the hand.
Yeah.
Because I know that there's somebody for everybody, and there's, everybody's somebody's fantasy, but I definitely know by looking at their hand when it's not something that works for me, and you're allowed to say, that doesn't work for me, and cut your night off. I
mean, that's what else are you going to do? You're going to pursue that path and then ultimately be disappointed, or it's going to get harder and harder.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are going to be red flags, and then you're going to have to push past the red flags. Like that's...
Yeah, we have to release what's not meant for us, because like what's good enough isn't good enough. We want the thing that's going to be right for us, because that person that's not good enough for us, or that isn't going to work for us, they're going to be great with somebody else. We need to set them free.
That's so cool. So how did you get into all the palm reading thing?
Oh, when I was a Denny's waitress when I was like 18, miserable experience, by the way, totally humbling and like just like debasing as a person, because the most terrible things happened to me. But I had some clients who were Romani, and they were really nice to me, and they kind of would show up on hard nights. It was really weird. But one of them's name was Michael. He was Romani, and he started showing me a little here and there about palm reading. And he said it like that people in his culture would just make money, go around doing that, and they did it at festivals. And so I was like, that's awesome. And I wanted to learn more about it. So I got all the information I could from him and his family when they would come in, gave him a lot of free Grand Slams. And then from there, I just bought a lot of books, and like tried to build on that knowledge. But like the fact that you can look at somebody's hand, like that idea was given to me by those customers in my most unfortunate time, like a low point in my life, really. So I thank them for that. Because like they can turn a low point into a high point, and something that means that your life is going to change.
That is so cool.
Thank you.
Very, very, very cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with me. Oh my God, yeah, everybody, Catherine Bowles.
Thank you.
Check her out. All the links are going to be, in the description box. I'll put them all there. And
cobble together something.
Yeah, no doubt. No, she's working on her website, YouTube channel, all that stuff. I mean, it's all a work in progress.
Yeah.
So it might take some time, but
yeah,
it's all right, Thank
you.
Thank you. So I just want to let people know where they can find you and, you know, chat with you, because I can see your passion just coming through, and I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
you taking the time.
That means so much to me.
You know, like I'm a guinea pig. The positive is
Yeah,
that
thanks for putting
I
yourself
just
out there
got
like
a
that.
ton of insight, you know. So like, I certainly have nothing to complain about.
But now everybody that is on your channel is gonna know how to love you. So
Well, yeah, dote on me, peeps. Come on,
Give 'em the love.
You know, I'm around. You know, like my email's up there. You know what I mean? And
DMs are open.
I'm on Patreon. So hit me up.
Patreon. Money is love, baby.
That's right. But yeah, we're all here to really try to, you know, bring some light into the world, bring some love into the world, inspire, and hopefully see a better world. Like, we're all here to learn lessons, try and figure out what those are with the tools that we have. Thank you for sharing yours.
Thank you. It means the world to me.
Oh,
Thank you, Owen.
that's awesome. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.